Hey everyone.
Let me switch over to comments.
I'm just trying to update the thumbnail for you all so you can see us better. Okay. Well, hopefully it'll register at some point. Or I might just have to um, open up a new tab.
Hey everybody, welcome.
What are you eating? It looked like broccoli.
I made a salad, so I put like there's like breaded chicken breast in there,
Mhm.
avocado, chopped lettuce, of course, tomato, and then I like didn't have shredded cheese, so I took like provolone and just like picked it apart so it was like in bits.
Mhm.
And then I just like I don't really like most salad dressings, so I just do olive oil and then I like salt and pepper it to taste.
That is okay. That's interesting. It's giving Gregory from Abbott if you watch it.
Oh.
Because like I'm a fan of dressing. Like I couldn't imagine doing just olive oil and salt, but I mean that's a base of a lot of dressing, so you like the base.
Yeah, yeah, like I know, like I feel like I don't know what it is. It's just like and it's interesting because like I feel like the dressing is responsible for like the whole like flavor profile of a salad, or it
Mhm.
does a lot to like amplify the salad. But I'm just like you know, some balsamic. Yeah, okay. So I don't have any balsamic, but occasionally, like if I do have it, I'll put it in there.
Okay.
Not they said not Gregory.
So our main way, to start these is kind of checking in with how we've been mentally. And already I feel like I feel like my answers are not gonna be in depth enough. I don't know. But I don't know if you started last time, so I don't want to have a habit of defaulting to you, but maybe you can help guide me in like
Well, that's
figuring out
like
how to express myself on that.
my the last time. So I watched back the stream just because I was like
Mhm.
curious. I was like, because it's one thing to be in the moment, and another thing to observe yourself after the fact. I was not deep at all when we
Okay,
like.
okay.
You're like, "How are you doing?" And I was just like, like I kind of gave like the typical like I'm fine sort of answer because
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of us just get conditioned to do that. Like I'm fine, but then a minor inconvenience, and I'm like ready to like jump off the building. Um,
Exactly.
like, but I don't know. This past week has been like actually 2 weeks, maybe three. Has it been 2 or 3 weeks now?
I think 3.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I'm like back at work, back with the person that like kind of gave me Coviana. I finally got results back from HR, and it's just like I'm trying not to be consumed with like hatred and vitriol of this person,
Mhm.
but it's this type of like thing where like their whole political stance and their arrogance and ignorance directly impacted me and my livelihood and my roommate like and friends livelihood. So it's just this like situation where I'm like kind of biting my tongue and trying not to lose this job.
Mhm.
And it's like I realize that at the end of the workday, like every shift that I have with this person at the end of the workday, like I have consumed so much, like there's like so much energy expensed on just like being like frustrated
Mhm.
that I've just been like exhausted after work, like more so than usual. So I'm like working on ways to just put that into something because I'm a creative person, but I just like haven't had an outlet. I've just been so unmotivated.
Mhm.
So I'm just like I'm trying to figure it out. Like, but it's been a lot. Like I don't think of myself as a hateful person, but this is like this first situation that has like really tried me to where I'm like, now this might be like my villain origin story,
Mhm,
especially after HR was just like kind of gave him a slap on the wrist and if that and then just kind of carried on, didn't even entertain my request for like getting my PTO reinstated, like none of that. They were like, "Well, we had the COVID thing for a while and that went away." And I'm just like, "But why did it go away? Like why couldn't you keep at least one of those things for like any new employee that signs on in this ongoing pandemic?"
mhm.
Like, 'cause it did not end, and like, "We're taking this back because the pandemic is over," but I'm like, "It didn't. It didn't do that." Like, so it just pissed me off. I was like, "You guys can't even, like, retroactively, like, factor me into that because it ended the week the week before I was hired is when the whole COVID, like, grace period thing ended, where they would give you, like, the PTO separate from what the job gave.
Mhm.
So I was just, like, trying to argue a case there, and they just did not. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And it just also made me realize a lot of how these people, like, they don't operate with any sort of, like, understanding for, like, public safety because it's, like, corporate, it really is just, like, their bottom dollar and that's it. We're expendable. And I was just like, I knew that already working for something like Starbucks for, like, almost, like, 10 years. Um, but it was just, like it was really disheartening to realize that I'm, like, kinda back in that wheel. But that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I
How are
think a
you?
lot of what you said was, at least I'm gonna like use the natural ways you kind of went about sharing your story is kind of what I'm gonna use too. Because one, I think what you explained is kind of something that I have also been thinking about, is kind of like that way that someone can do something to drastically impact your life, and then there's kind of like no consequences for that. So that's, I think, a big part of it. And then so you started with kind of like connecting, reflecting on like the last time we did a live to now. So the last time we did a live to now, I had two therapy sessions so far, I think. Yes. I have my third one coming. And so far it's been good. I've mainly been a little bit I've the reason why it took me so long to like get into therapy was because I felt like I was already good at talking about what I was going through, because I really would hear about talk therapy more so. But I think now I'm in a unique place in my life where I'm not talking as much. And so like even when the therapist is doing stuff that maybe I would have liked in the past, of like interjecting with like some quote unquote solutions or things to try, I'm like, girl, I just need to talk. Like I can't, like, I know you want to help, like suggest. I'm like, girl, either I've done it or I just need to get it out first. So I think that's where I'm at. And then even with like streams like this, it's like one of my few ways where I'm being social. So it's like, for me, I think a part of this is like really just talking and getting stuff out, seeing what other people are saying, and just interacting, for me, for my mental health. Um, and I think mainly where I'm at, I feel like I'm in a space where I don't know, I feel like I don't really emote much on the internet, which I feel like is, you know, it's neutral. I don't think it's necessarily good or bad really. So it's like by the time when the camera is on, I'm like, well, how do I actually share like my feelings or what I'm going through? Because I'll just feel or try to feel outside of that. So I feel like mentally, every time the camera is on, it's like I'm okay. Because at this point, I feel like I have to be okay enough to socialize. If I'm not okay, then I'm not socializing. That's kind of what I think can wrap that up.
That's so, like that's one thing that's, like, interesting about, like, doing, like, content creation and, like, doing like, I often don't like to share feelings in my stuff, but
Mhm.
that's one of the caveats that I find because like, I'll get criticisms about being, like, very, like, flat or even keel, but, like, a lot of this is, like, decades of work, like, when I was younger, lot of issues with managing anger, and it took a lot to get to the point where I could even like just talk about what I'm feeling, thinking in a way that isn't going to be like incendiary. Um, Especially if I feel like overstimulated, like that's really hard. Is like actually like sharing in the moment because like what I want to do is like I like either stim or just like
Mhm,
yeah, like it's difficult. Like it's and especially like if you don't feel well, like
mhm.
you're like I go through phases where I'm like completely like I will be nonverbal. Like if I can get away with it, probably for weeks.
Yeah,
Like
I can get away with it. And I think it's this build up too, because it's like, especially even thinking about what you're going through at work and what that could mean in the future. Like when you hold stuff in for so long, it's like, okay. Now, when you're able to release it or even address it with someone who you couldn't address things with before, it's like, where do I even start? And then all those, it's hard to communicate because it's so much pent up. And that's what I think another thing for therapy too for me is like I don't want to have so much pent up. I want to be talking about it so that I can, when I need to address things with people that I want to address things to, it's not, everything's not so high. The tensions aren't so high for me. Because for
yeah,
the other person, they might be, able to talk through things. But me, like, as soon as I start getting it out, I'm like, crying. I'm like trying to catch my breath. And I don't want to be like that when I want to, like, actually share, like, in the moment with people that I feel like I have like high tensions with and stuff.
yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of some of the things that I've been thinking about in the past few days. Yeah.
I do realize that like just one quick like aside, like I realized like in adulthood, especially when I was like moved out of my parents' home, living on my own, and I realized that a lot of those like learned behaviors on how to deal with this growing up, there's considerably less grace. So I had to like force myself, like even if I wasn't ready to just like give people like verbally something, because like so many folks, I don't know what it is about like maybe it's my demeanor, maybe it's the way like emotions do show on my face, where
Hmm.
it's like instead of them understand like they'll understand me immediately as like pissed off,
Hmm.
but they don't understand that I was hurt before that.
Hmm.
So it's just like and that's one of the big things. So that's why I always try and like, especially in workplaces, like I hate that I have to like be so stringent with myself in that space, but it's like they're never gonna afford me that grace. So I have to
Hmm.
just like work on like what can I say like right now that'll like that'll buy like I guess bide my time to where I can this can be fleshed out further. So
And
like
yeah, that's what sucks too about not getting that like protection at home because I feel like with me, I'm thinking about an experience where with a parent, like when they come to ask you what's wrong and you before you can really explain to them like flesh it out at a young age, you might be crying, just really emotions are high. And they're looking at you like, relax. Or, like I literally remember the parent looking at me like taken aback that I was so quickly emotional as soon as they asked me what was wrong. And then kind of walking out of the room soon because they couldn't deal with it, you
yeah,
know? And it was just like knowing that like this is your job to do, but because you see me too what to on what you were saying, they even at a young age they see you as so mature, so when you are acting like that they don't see that as a child, like being a child can't express things. They're like, you're mature, you're supposed to be able to give me a 5 paragraph essay on what you're going through. And it's like, not right now. Well, now you're realizing that you perceive me as mature, but I'm actually a baby. Okay.
five paragraph essay.
So I think that is a part of it. Like and then when you're especially at these places of work where they're not going to give you that. And that's
Yeah,
when, like for me, I'm getting back into my emotional era where I can kind of cry at any moment. But I used to be like that. And then when I got to college, I was like, I can't do this because I just can't be crying in class. I can't be like, I remember my freshman year, I was in this group that like, I don't know why I stayed in it so long. I was torturing myself. we're doing this like thing. It's like a older guy in the room and this younger white guy, and we're supposed to be like doing this like scenario. And I wasn't getting it right because I just didn't have the right practice or whatever. So like the older guy's giving me feedback, and I'm starting to cry, and I'm feeling it, and I'm like, please do not. But it couldn't. It was at that point like it was. I would, and after that day, I was like, you cannot be doing this. But at the same time, like even in that situation, I should have been embraced, or not embraced like a hug, but just understand like what I'm going through. But they didn't know what I was going through. I didn't know what I was going through. So that's why I was like, I can't be crying like that. But yeah, and I went through a lot of college without being. By the end, I was like less emotional about a bunch of stuff, but I'm trying to get it back.
Yeah. That's like one thing is like I don't know where I made like maybe I'll like think for like more deeply about where I even got that messaging, but it's like part of growing up is just like being like less emotional or you're phased by fewer things. And I'm just like, I don't think that's right. Cause like, cause then I'm gonna be like, approaching 40 and I'll be like, man, like, why am I so like pent up angry about all of this? Like, I haven't figured
Mhm.
out so much of this stuff. And it's because I didn't give myself that space to like genuinely feel what was
Exactly.
happening to me. Like,
Mhm.
I was raised to not show feelings. So someone told us to get the shadow work journal, and I just want to say I rebuke that. Whoever said that in this chat.
No, I feel like I've seen less like get the shadow work book propaganda, and I've seen more people like tearing it down for being promoted so much and whatever. I don't even know what's in it.
I didn't get that weird like cuz I stay off the TikTok shop like my whole relationship is post and go. And I'll go on the friends tab and see what my friends are doing. I'll hit the repo like I'm a repost queen. I'm, I don't care how it looks for my brand. I'm a repost that. If I laugh, if I giggled, repost. But I didn't see the first shadow work thing until Julesy had made a video talking about the shadow work thing, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And then it was in the suggested search that TikTok does now, and then I clicked on it, and I just went down the rabbit hole, and I was like, "This is a mess." Like,
Yeah, I still can't even describe what the phenomenon of it is because yeah, I don't even know. Um
I think it's just a new term making its way into pop astrology
okay.
because that's where I understood a lot of like shadow work goes beyond clearly astrology but I think it's like it found its way in because so many astrologers are on TikTok. Shadow work a junkian I hope I'm saying that right. It's attached to that too, but it covers a lot of different territories and schools of thought.
Someone said I've been doing some shadow work prompts in my journal and I can say I think I feel worse. How am I supposed to do shadow work if I can't even do normal work?
Oh, I'm turning red already. Wow. Oh.
um well, I guess maybe a part of that could also lead us into like the next phase of this is kind of like how we've been dealing with current events and also like just the variety of issues that comes up when it's like dealing with current events and people in your life. Because like for me, I think this is like one of the first times I've been really thinking about starting like a signal group chat for like family, having something that is like encrypted, private, and really like getting people used to those lines of communication
Yeah.
where I like send things to my family about like things that I care about. Because I mean, it's something that I've always put off, but I'm like, you know what? I actually can do it.
Yeah, the current events right now are banana sandwich. And I just have to say, like, I was checking out some of your story when I was like closing the other night, and just you being transparent. So I guess for full context, talking about what's happening in Palestine right now and in Gaza. you being fully transparent and saying like you shouldn't be afraid of like claims of like anti-Semitism, um, and to just like be very transparent about like educating yourself and wanting to know more. Like that helped me a lot because like if y'all will look, like I haven't said anything on social media just because like literally the last time that we were doing this live stream, I was getting dragged and getting called anti-Semitic for even critiquing someone like Drake.
Hmm.
So like I was just like, I feel like, and this has happened multiple times where I'll say something and then I'll get dragged and it's like this is anti-Semitic and it's like a bunch of like people with like Israeli flag emojis
Hmm.
like in the bio or just like as their thing, just dragging me, and I'm like, I feel like I'm not allowed to share thoughts on this, but it's like you providing those resources and getting like me more comfortable with plugging in and finding better language for for like how to share thoughts, like that was great. Like
Yeah, no
because
problem.
I've been seeing a lot that's like really terrifying. Especially like I haven't opened up TikTok for like a lot of this week, just because
Hmm.
every time I've opened it up, there has been someone who's like, here's the actual truth about Zionism, and this is what it actually means. And it's like they're going through these talking points that is like reframing Zionism as like this very centrist, balanced stance. And I can't unhook that from like how a lot of like neoliberals will do the same thing here in the United, like especially white neoliberals here in the United States will do the same thing on like hot button issues, especially around like police brutality and just like what happens in respective black communities within the United States and even like in the Caribbean, of course, because like my family, Dominican and Haitian. Um it's like I couldn't unhook, like I actually saved a couple of the videos because I was gonna like I don't know if it's like weird to like play them here because I was like curious of what your thoughts would be when you heard how this person was like framing Zionism, because I've only ever heard that as like it- kind of like on the verge of being extremist or
Hmm.
just fully extremist. And this person is just like, actually, most Jews are Zionists because, and it's like, and they make this, like, they make that distinction several times through their thing. So they'll give this very balanced take about what Zionism is, and they'll be like most Jews, and they'll lean into the camera. So it feels very
Yeah, you can play it if you want. I don't mind.
like it was like I was bugging out like watching this because this person has come up every time I've opened the app. I'm like, why are you in front of my face right now?
I haven't. Okay, wait. There has been maybe two or three people that I have in mind of who you might show, not because I went to their page, but because I saw their stuff getting stitched. So I wouldn't be, because I wouldn't be surprised if it's like only like three like white Jewish women like fighting
Yeah,
hard and nobody else.
yeah, okay, no, for I think it's gonna be probably who you saw.
Okay.
So should I just play it or should I like face it towards the
Well, face it so I can just see who it is, but then you could play it off without showing it.
so this is the
I'm curious.
woman, and the what she captioned this video was, yes, comma, your favorite Jewish creators are Zionists, is what she captioned this video. And I was like, and it's like it's multiple videos like this.
Mhm.
Um, so this is the lady. Is that her?
Okay. I think I've seen her. Yeah, I think I've seen her.
Her name is Melinda Strauss or Strauss, and she's got the Magden David, like the star
Mhm.
and the Israeli flag. And that's another thing that I'm also recognizing is it's like so in her videos she will often state um not all Palestinians are Arab, not all some of them are Jewish, a lot of are non-religious. It's like duh, it's just like that
Yeah.
could be the case anywhere. Like because like um but she does these things that subtly link it just feels like this might be the wrong term, and I apologize if I offend anyone in this chat, but it feels like a lot like ethno nationalism that happens here in the States,
Mhm.
where white Americans link themselves to the American flag, and it tries to drive home this point of like, this is what Americans look like, this is what Americans think like, this is the American politic, and it only aligns with this white, like,
I think the reason why what you're saying is perfectly fine, but at the same time, it's kind of like there is no separation, meaning when like white nationalists align themselves with the American flag, it is what it is. Like there's no other way of using the American flag and there's no other way of using the Israeli flag. I think that is the point.
yeah, yeah. And that's what she said. She tries to make these arguments about like. So I'll play the video. But one thing she makes several points and videos about is like, you can support the Israeli state, but not support what the government is doing. I was like, those are the same. That's one and the same to me.
Hmm.
Because like she's trying to like essentially distinguish herself from the worst acts of like the IDF who carries out the state's bidding, but
Hmm.
like she still claims to support the Israeli state and she has the flag in her bio, and it's just like it's a lot. But this is what she's saying. Let me put the volume up.
Shocked when your favorite Jewish creator shares that they are a Zionist and believe in the Jewish homeland, then it shows how much we still need to teach you about Judaism. I started sharing about Judaism on my platform when I realized how many people didn't think anti-Semitism was still a thing that happened. And it's incredible to see how many Jewish people are on social media now sharing about our lives as Jews. I'm especially proud as an Orthodox Jew to see the community of Orthodox Jews that are sharing about our lives and how each of us lives so differently, but we all share the same values. And one of those values is Zionism. No, not the Zionism that you're taught about in college where you think that it's evil and that we want anybody who's innocent to be hurt in the process, or that we want everybody kicked out of Israel besides the Jewish people. That's a lie. I do have an entire post on Instagram explaining what Zionism means, and I highly recommend that you go read it. But it's important to know that you can think that everything going on with the Israeli government is wrong, but still believe in the Jewish homeland. That the Jewish people have lived on this land for thousands of years through different names. It wasn't always called Israel. So for those who say Israel's only 75 years old, please know we have lived there a lot longer. And that we are indigenous to the land of Israel. And while there are some Jews out there that are anti-Israel, they are not the norm. And I know that you like those to be your token Jews, the ones where you can then say, oh, not all Jews believe in the state of Israel. But a majority of Jews around the world and a majority of Orthodox Jews believe in Zionism. So if you're shocked by Jewish creators who are Zionists, well, now you know that most of us are. And if you unfollow us because we're Zionists, this is your reminder not to come back and follow us later because we're still going to be Zionists. If you are shocked when your favorite Jewish creator shares that they are a Zionist and believe in the Jewish homeland, then it shows how much we still need to teach you.
So that was the full, yeah. There was so like literally as someone who is not Palestinian, as someone who's just growing up here in the States, linked with like intracommunal black struggles,
Hmm.
this gave me goosebumps. Like this was like the first thing that popped up on my app like right after reading a headline about that bombing.
Well, one thing I feel is that posts like that are not being shared widely and received well. I can be pretty sure of that. Because just from looking, like even when I like scroll TikTok, I'm not seeing those dominated, or they're being stitched, or people are just literally not engaging with it, meaning like you'll go to those posts and they'll be up for literally a week, and then it might have 1,000 likes but like 2,000 comments, and then it's not moving. So that's like a good point. But with what she's saying, one, I think she's trying to do damage control over Zionism, because one thing, Zionism did have a strong hold, and I made sure to listen to some of Angela Davis's Freedom is a Constant Struggle. I read it a while ago, but I wanted to reread it, and um I think there she says a point on Zionism in here. Let me see.
And they clocked the same thing in the comments. So the person, because her use of the phrase indigenous as
Mhm.
like it was a whole white woman with like blue green eyes and very light hair staring at my like me from the screen. I was like, that's
Exactly.
so very weird. Like
Oh, I think it's here. Okay. Um, the impact of the influence of Zionism, which used to be pervasive, is losing its force. And she goes to talk about how there literally were movements like progressives accept Palestine because of how pervasive Zionism is. But right now, that's not the case. You have Students for Justice in Palestine, in the United States. So it's not as pervasive as it was before. So that was just a smaller quote. But specifically with Zionism, and so I think I'll actually start with like the IDF, which is like the Israel Defense Force, and Israel in general. This land and the occupation and the people there are almost like they're all complicit to the genocide in Palestine. And I say all because one, they all go through training through the military as soon as they hit 18, and then they stay within the military until they're 40 years old. So, and then people get paid to live on that land, and people who are living on that land have forcibly removed Palestinians. So they are all complicit, especially when we're talking about like innocent Israeli civilians. Unless they're like literally five, they or at an age where they have yet conceptualized like what they're doing and being indoctrinated, there really is not these Israeli innocent Israeli people. You are all indoctrinated into being okay with the genocide or colonization of Palestine. So that's one. And then like when she says too that there are like a lot of Jews that are Zionists, or not a lot, but there are some Jews that are Zionists and they're always going to be that, I believe her, because that indoctrination is strong. Like I fully believe a lot of them have been raised day in and day out to believe what they are saying. The fact that she's trying to separate some Zionists, there you can't do that because the existence of that land is through like horror and terror. So like there is this disconnect in what it seems like she knows, or the what how she's trying to mislead the public. And then when it goes to like um Jewish people being indigenous to that land, I've been trying to figure out that history, not because I doubt that the history from other people other than like Zionists is true, but because I just want to know and make sure if I'm sharing the history, I'm sharing the correct history that come from people who are Palestinian and descend from indigenous people of that land. So what she's saying is kind of like ridiculous because you wouldn't even if your ancestors were indigenous to that land, there were a lot of other people there that are also entitled to that land, is what I'm learning in the history. So it's not like you are indigenous to that land, especially if you and your lineage, we can track it and you were from all these other places. And then something was shared on how the land, so Israel is currently occupying Palestine, but they tried to occupy Kenya, and they would have done something similar, and that while also eventually wanting to take the land of Palestine. So this is something that they've been brewing, is what I've been learning. But specifically, I believe it is the Hans people, the Kanites. I think it's Canaanites.
Oh, kind of
People
nice.
that are
Yeah.
indigenous to that land, because then they like to say for 4,000 years, 3,000 years, there have been people in that land of all religious practices or spirituality. So that's what I've been learning. So again, they are doing the same things that people in the United States do. Give people a type of history to latch onto that is completely untrue.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's what is emboldening those people, and that's what a part of it is so scary, is that they fully wholeheartedly believe in a history that's not true, whether they know it or not. And want to so passionately share it. And then too on the anti-Semitism part, like, and for I was just watching today, there are so many Jewish groups that are literally protesting for Palestine, like occupying. I loved it. They were occupying on the Capitol, literally demanding a ceasefire, wearing shirts that say "Not in my name" because people keep using Jewish people like in the name of Jews, and there are so many Jewish people. Like, no. So that's really, I think that's a really important part, that these Zionists are going to be completely ostracized, and their numbers of support is dwindling, and they're going to be the only Zionist people doing that. And I think, yeah, too, like even when it comes to like Christianity, like again in Palestine, people do practice a lot of different religions. But yeah, like other religions and practices are going through the exact same things in Palestine. So they have to do better, because everybody is learning that what they're saying is not making sense. Like they have less and less support. And even going back to what you were saying about like just that worry of how they organize against people, it's dwindling. It's really dwindling. Because like when people were saying those things in your comments about Drake, like I could only imagine how many people within the matter of a few weeks now, if that was happening, would be way more educated on how ridiculous that is to be putting in your comments.
Yeah. So are Zionist people kind of like extremist?
Yeah, they're basically like yeah, because people, and that's why when people say the far right Israeli government, that's what they're saying. It's like very similar to far right ideology here in the United States. So very, very similar. But they're also Christian Zionists, which I've been learning about. So this is the thing. I think Christian Zionists are, especially Christian Zionists could even be Black people, who believe that Israelis deserve that land, and by any circumstances should get that land because of the Bible.
Yeah.
Um, so
That
that's a part of it as well. And especially going back to what she said, there's no other way that Israel has been occupying Palestine but in forcibly like ways. So that's one way she's wrong. There has not been no peaceful pushing people off land. Um, so yeah, there are definitely like Black people who back Israel because of this idea of, I don't know, is it the rapture, Jesus coming
yeah.
back, something like
So one of the like in the lengthy things of like that you need to check off the boxes for the end times to supposedly be here, because I grew up in a church that was like non-denominational, but they had a synagogue there as well. And I remember a specific lesson talking about that, like in order for Christ to come back and return, that Jews need to have their homeland back.
Mhm.
Like that's one of the markers of like the time being near for Christ's return. And it's like such an insidious like like it's just such an insidious link up. Like I can't think of anything other than like this being birthed out of just how like a government agenda from the United States like backing Israel as
Mhm.
a like a settler colonialist project. Like it's like so transparently tied to money, like is what it feels like.
Because that's the another part of what you're saying is like there's these like three things at play, because especially with the fact that the United States, their interests are also oil and like controlling business in the Middle East, because this is how they keep that invested interest.
And what's crazy is like, so if y'all look into the history of the DR,
Hmm.
so the Dominican Republic so desperately wants to be Lil Cousin to the United States. It's why so much of what they do and how they like even the whole like caste system and how race is continuing to operate, in which it kind of like takes a lot from the United States, whether or not they want to admit that or not.
Hmm.
They even allowed like, so one of the things for when like the regime was in much more like fuller force about like purifying and lightening the race was allowing um specifically Jewish people of the European descent into the DR for refuge because it was like in hopes of creating, like, first of all, lightening the race because you're recognizing these people as now white, even though they went through an atrocity that racialized them as otherwise. Um, but recognizing them as white to lighten the race and hope and in hopes of gaining ties to Israel.
Mhm.
And there's like that's just like the truth. And I grew up kind of like mostly fully understanding that as as like someone who was Dominican.
That is like, again, like, you just knowing that is like, this is just everywhere, like,
Yeah. Like
really.
what I just saw my name. Speak on the DR, speak on, yeah. Yeah, it was I don't think it was specifically of course Trujillo upheld it, but I'm forgetting the name of the person that kind of took over after him because there was an occupation by the United States in the DR for like 2 years or so, and whoever they put in place after Trujillo was the guy that was like doing that of like we're going to be refuge for specifically Euro descended Jewish people
Mhm.
because they just wanted another way, another avenue of guaranteeing that most Dominicans would end up looking like me or lighter.
Mm.
Like that was really the tea. Like
Yeah. And I think that context also is important because, again, I think in a lot of these conversations, especially with like when people like Princess Nokia kind of dominate these conversations on what people look like in Puerto Rico and DR, and people think that that is a race. They think a race of people look like that. And I'm like, it's okay to acknowledge that there's a lineage of multiracial, biracial, these mixings, because then you forget that this is not just its own race. It comes from us expanding how we talk about race and why people look like this. I don't know why, but we need that history
mhm.
in order to explain it. So I think that's important because there's so many people, like especially in the United States, just think, and I think that's why people just think, oh, Latino, Latina is a race, because they don't have the words on why so many people who have like what lineages in Latin America are in the United States and speak, you know, the way they do and look the way they do at the same time.
Yeah.
I thought all PR looked like J Lo.
J Lo is a white woman. That's a white woman. And since I was a kid, everybody in my family has joked about that. Like J Lo is a white lady.
Yeah, I'm like, people gotta. I understand why some people, I guess, don't dig into it because even me, like, once I realized how much literature there is out there about like just Black history in the Caribbean and especially like the Spanish speaking islands. I was like, with all this information, you would think because people struggle to talk about it to this day, people don't. There's nothing written about it. I was finding books on books talking about. I was like, wow, the information is just not being spread.
Yeah, it's a heavy dose of like anti-intellectualism and them just relying on like wives' tales about
Mhm.
like conflict between them and like especially between the DR and Haiti. A lot of people on the DR side um just willfully ignorant and
Mhm.
like boldly uneducated and going off wives' tales that their racist grandpappy said about someone else, and it's just like it's ridiculous. It's so
Mhm.
ridiculous. Even what is her name? She does such amazing work, and she's currently like, hang on. There was a whole smear campaign on her
Mhm.
for getting funding for a project that she's doing in Haiti, which is
Mhm.
like where she lives. She's like just helping create like a better structure for Haiti. And there was like all these Dominicans like stitching her video and trying to like do this whole smear campaign about her supposedly being responsible for I forgot what country it is that's like wanting gold in the DR because the DR has mines. And
Mhm.
they were claiming that she has connects to them and she's accepting their money so they can come and infiltrate the DR, further displace people, and just for gold mines. And I was just like, it's just the banana sandwich, the mental gymnastics that they'll go through instead of just like cracking open a book or actually reading an article and not just the headline.
Hmm.
Like,
Oh, you're finding her page.
yeah.
Okay.
So her name is starts with a B, and I don't want to mispronounce it, so I need to actually look at the name. But she just like her whole like her content is just like her going through Haitian history, but
Hmm.
the work that she does behind the scenes is just like she's just like literally providing like just building structure. Um, B.
I think Robin C in the chat knows.
Bertrude Albert. Yeah. So and she oh my gosh. I don't know if that's gonna show up. It's probably gonna be backwards.
Yeah, no, I can't see it.
Oh,
Well,
but
spell it. I could type it in the chat.
the at is Bertrude. Bertrude. And
B
she's
E
the
B
oh yeah.
E R TRHUDE.
Yeah, DE.
Okay.
D as in dog.
Okay.
And so she's the co-founder of P4H Global, which is basically a nonprofit that trains teachers that helps them transform Haiti. Like that's the bulk of her work. And they were like trying to like slander this whole nonprofit and the work that she's doing there and claiming that it was like basically just an op to displace Dominicans and help other countries mine gold out of the mountains. Like just insidious stuff that works all too well because like anti-Haitian sentiment is like global. It really is global. Like
Well, I let me read this quote from the beginning of Freedom is a Constant Struggle. I think this book is just too good. I had to stop reading it because I was like, I'll just be reading quotes all day. But so I feel like in what we're saying, the reason why I want to read this quote is just talking about like the global nature of what we're talking about and how like the fact that you can connect this to DR, Haiti, Palestine, etc. is kind of so important for people to start getting in that mind state that like you cannot see something that's happening one place as not also directly affecting you. Um, so in the beginning of the book, she talks about how she's in a building that hosts various organizations and charities working for global justice. Some focus on Western Sahara, some on Palestine, others on Latin America or Africa. She says it's a good environment to work in, surrounded by people who believe in fairer and a better society and who have decided to act on their beliefs and dedicate their lives to trying to change the world. Sounds utopian maybe, but the important word here is probably not the one that you're thinking of. It's trying. Trying and trying again, never stopping. That is a victory in itself. Everyone and everything tells you that outside you will not succeed, that it's too late, that we live in an epoch where revolution cannot happen anymore. Radical changes are things of the past. You can be an outsider, but not outside the system. And you can have political beliefs, even radical ones, but they need to stay within the bounds of the permissible, inside that bubble that has been drawn for you by the elites. So in that ending, she was basically saying kind of just how people I typically respond to me as well. Like, okay, like you can have these radical beliefs, but they will always exist within the limits and bounds of the elites, the capitalist system, and how people feel like radical change is something that happened before but not happening now. So I feel like that's also really important for people who keep thinking that like nothing can be done and that trying aspect is important and also trying globally or trying in solidarity with people globally. And then she says here, the concept that another way of organizing our lives collectively is possible, that we can be ruled by each other, the 99% instead of technocrats, banks, and corporations. Now, she published this book in 2016, But I think that the technocrats part is so important because I'm starting to realize what the hell she meant by that. Because the way Uber Eats had a chokehold on me for like the last 3 months, I deleted it off my app, like off my phone, like yesterday, because I'm like, this is one of many ways I need to like release myself from the chokehold of how these tech apps keep trying to make us think that they are providing us with like accessibility, but that's not the case. They're here for the money. They're not here for us for our self-care. I'm struggling with being able to figure out what to eat, when to eat, so I go to Uber Eats to help me. But it's like they're not that's not really what they're there for, even if I'm temporarily using that. So that's a part where I'm really feeling right now. It's kind of how these apps and the gig economy is really, really trying to control us, and how I'm trying. So one thing, another way I'm trying to like give myself enough energy to focus on the things that I really struggle with, like what to eat, is kind of also blocking out certain things on social media that like really rattle me. And not blocking out things like the Palestinians like resistance, but other things. Like I'm trying to follow less people. I don't have the YouTube app on my phone. If there's a specific YouTube video I want to see, I type it in. I'm not scrolling through that type of stuff. So just things that I know that affect me, I'm trying to figure that out to then how that connects to me not having enough time to focus on meals and prepping.
That's so like that's real, especially like with like now working full time. Well, like partially, I guess like kind of doing two full time jobs. Like cooking has always been, or cooking for myself has always been something that was grounding. And now it's just like I don't have the time. Like I will get off of a shift knowing that I have to edit like 6 hours of video for somebody, and I'm just like I don't have the time, so I like will order stuff, and it just like I've lost that time for me that like kind of like gives me a stronger relationship to my body as someone that struggles with that. So that's real. And then you just said something else that like about not following like a bunch of people. That's something that I have like realized now that I'm really struggling with because like I want to have like this sense of like global community and where like you know what is going on from people that you've like you get folks lived experience like like I've spoken to this person, we've had conversations, I want to know what's going on your block on in another hemisphere. But now I'm at the part where I'm just like I have like a platform where I'm like forcing myself to acknowledge that I have a platform, and I like I see too much and I feel like there's just too like I know too many people, and I'm just like, I don't actually know all these people, but it's like folks that I've collected along the way since getting online.
Mhm.
And it's just like it just feels like very weird because I genuinely don't believe that like as a human being you're supposed to know like 3,000 people. That's like an astronomical amount of people to me.
Exactly.
Like
Like so much of what you're saying is like because well one I there's so many things I want to say, but one I will say is that also realizing because over the years I would follow a bunch of people like, oh, I want to make sure I can support all these people, blah blah blah, and know what they're going through. But then I had to realize that even some of these the sweetest people that I follow, they don't care about me, and that's not in a bad way, but they don't be thinking, oh, like when I post this or say this, how is this going to affect my other mutuals? They don't think that, and and if they needed to think that, we'd have to be closer other than this follow.
yeah,
And we're not that close. So who cares if I'm following them? And if we want to be that close, we can, but we're not working on that right now. So there's no need for me to follow. There's no need for me, especially with certain platforms like TikTok and YouTube. People will start those things, and if they aren't passionate about continuing it, or if it's not currently benefiting them in a certain way, I done followed you because I wanted to support your YouTube career, but you stopped. like years ago. So now why am I still following you? So it's kind of like all those things of kind of just like, how do I make sure my relationship with social media is not like really rattling me like that? And I think that has really been helping me the last few days, even with like keeping track of what's been going on in Palestine. Like that hasn't really been detrimental to me, like just following a bunch of random people. Like I feel like I'm really acting out the things that I need to do in terms of raising awareness. And there's a part of that that I wanted to say. Oh, and even with embodiment, like that's one thing where I'm like, given that there's so many things going on in the world, at the end of the day, I know that I am an abolitionist, I am an anti-capitalist, socialist, all these things. Every single day, I'm practicing my solidarity with these people's liberation. So even when I'm not in the weeds of what's going on, because I think right now, I think I saw somebody talking about like South Sudan is might probably, I think it's South Sudan that's going through something similar to Palestine, and I'm like at the same time, and so it's like how to amplify both these things, but then sometimes I have to like reel it back, like my liberate. I'm also like Black people in the United States are also going through the same things. So knowing that I am constantly embodying a practice of true liberation kind of like makes me relax when it comes to outside of following people, all the various issues going on.
Damn. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, I think for me, like the last few, I want to say the last few months, I feel like, and again, I do want to get in touch with like spiritual practices because I feel like there's so many recollections that I've had within the last few months, even years, like even the fact, like, honestly, again, the last time I read this book was in probably 2018. So a lot of the things that are on this page, I didn't commit to memory. I just know I read this book. When I read it, I had also started leaving my phone home because I felt like I keep going through these detoxes with my phone. So, like in college, I had a packed schedule on Mondays. So, I would leave my phone home. I would take my laptop to school. So, I was like, if any emergency, I have my laptop, but I'm going to leave my phone home. And so, I would read this book on the bus because I'm like, I'm going to get bored. There's going to be nothing else to do but read this damn book. So, I would read it on the bus. I had no phone until I was done with it. And that was my journey of reading that book. And yeah, so then what was kind of like eerie to me is that like I had posted my last video about like being disillusioned with community. And when I was reading this book today, there were so many things that I said that were like almost direct quotes from this book that I didn't do on purpose. And I was like, oh, I'm demonstrating that I understand these concepts because without having to directly quote, I actually understand what I'm saying. So that was a part for me that I was like, that's I feel like that was a big deal for me. And then too, I remember given the Beyonce concerts, I remember the first Beyonce concert, me knowing that this is probably the last normal moment I think I'm gonna have in terms of just being able to like have some sort of escapist fun in the United States. I was like, I feel this is my last moment. And the fact that as soon as this tour wraps up, we are confronted with something that if it doesn't change the rest of our lives, failed. We have failed, period. So, and I remember saying how like bad that I know things are going to get, and it's getting there. And what I'm referencing to is like the elections next year. It's like I don't know who's telling me this. I don't know what they're trying to like. Who was I feel like was priming me for to get ready for whatever we have to get ready for. So yeah, that's just what I had to get off my chest.
no, I feel that. Especially just like I think there were multiple things that kind of clued me into how like next year is gonna be going. Um of course, like just seeing how this government handled the pandemic, the rollout of just like just how much AI has advanced, where people weren't paying attention, we're now suddenly confronted with it because it's now like more obviously integrated with social media and what we do on social media and how we consume social media. That was another huge thing where I was just like, yo, like, oh my god, it's like literally why I just got rid of Twitter off my phone because it's just like it's not. I'm not one for what's it called, this sunken cost fallacies. I
Mhm.
don't care how much time I put into that app. I just let it go. I was like, it is not like, and for a lot of people, that's like the news source. That's the end all, and it's like so much of what's going on right there, and especially how like they're incentivizing how like blue checks use that app is
Mhm.
like, it's just a headache to think about. Um, but it's a lot. Like the writing has been on the wall, and I feel that. That's funny. I forgot because you went to Beyonce. We went to um
Victoria.
yeah, we saw Victoria, and we were two of, I want to say, 4 or 5 people that were masked up in that show.
Mhm.
And I like, I paid it no mind, but like I noticed quite a few people, just like a few pretty well-known people who have fully made content about like be responsible, mask up, fully at this show unmasked and also looking at me crazy because I was wearing a mask.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, all right. That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. And for me, it's one of those things where like in that moment, it's kind of like you just have to it's like a compartmentalize because it should be infuriating, but in that moment, it's just like whatever. It's like
Yeah,
I can't give it that energy right now.
yeah. I was like, I'm I'm here at the Fonda to rock and sway to Victoria Monet.
Mhm.
Not enough people went up for All Right, I'll say that.
You're lying. One of the best songs.
Like, it was like the crowd was just like not moved.
You
But
see, this is where I would have had to go up to her like, I am excuse everyone in here. I am sorry on everyone's behalf. I don't like when people do that because like I feel like the artist sees it and then they're not gonna give the song the attention they need and it's gonna like backfire on the rest of us.
exactly, and another quick aside, just like I also noticed that she went with, I think it was Amorphous who made that mix of Party Girls where he had mixed it with, um was it Naughty Girl? What's the song that Beyonce did with Sean Paul? Was that Baby Boy?
Baby boy, yeah.
So they mixed it with that instrumental. So it wasn't the original instrumental. And as she was doing the song, it's like people were singing along, but they were singing, like I heard multiple people. Like it was a very conflicting thing. Some people were singing along to Party Girls. Other people were just singing Baby Boy because it was the instrumental. And then they were doing choreo to Baby Boy's instrumental. And I was just like, I feel like she did that because people did not rock with Party Girls when it came
Mhm.
out. Like people were just like, "Oh, that's cute," and like just kept it pushing.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry,
I
quick.
think yeah, kind of tangent, but I feel like still important because again, this is what we are doing, juggling multiple things. Is like because even in that situation too, because look, because this is the thing, we will mask at these events, but like the artist also doesn't demonstrate like anything like, oh, I'm taking this risk to perform unmasked for you all. They don't communicate it like that.
And what was okay? What had me okay? This is not me trying to like be incendiary of Victoria Monet or Gaines, her very very handsome baby father. They brought out Hazel, and that little girl was not wearing a mask.
These
Like,
days
yeah, yeah,
are
they were VIP, and it was a bunch of celebrities who have a bunch of access and are hopefully vaxxed up. But like, no like there was two. I think one, they weren't a celebrity. It looked like an assistant to a celebrity. They were wearing a mask, but nobody else was. And then they brought out their little girl, and I was just like, it was just in the back of my mind. I was like, oh my god, Hazel is so adorable. But in the back of my mind, I was like, that child is fully unmasked in this venue.
and that's so when I was thinking about the Beyonce concert as well, at first I was under the impression that she's probably taking all the necessary precautions behind the scenes to make sure her health and her child's health, etc., is okay. again, you would see her baby children in the crowd watching her perform, the crowd of people who have various viruses going around. But
Yeah.
then, too, I was under the impression that, okay, it's Beyonce. She's going to have like air purifiers in the back. When her dancers aren't performing, they're separated. No, the dancers, like, while on tour, would go to other various events that I'm sure were not where they weren't being tested and blah, blah, blah. Like, so that was very interesting to me because there's also but so much you can do. Yes, IV drips help the girls with hydration, but if IV drips were something that was stopping the spread of COVID and whatnot, I think they would be way more popular. Um, so that's something where I'm like, it's not like, oh, Beyonce's okay because she can get IV drips or whatever. And even if she's vaxxed up, it's not until recently where we've probably been hearing about the most effective vaccine that's going to be rolling out, and that's Novavax. So it's like I don't know. I don't know. Even with that, Victoria Monet and Beyonce, it's like you would think they would care a lot about their health and their children's health, but it's giving they're also COVID deniers.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like, uh, yeah. That was definitely a little bit of the vibe. Like,
Yeah, because I'm like, we're upset about people in the audience not wearing a mask, but these damn performers is like, y'all aren't helping. Because even, it would go such a long way if Beyonce was like, wear silver, but also wear a mask to my concert. A lot more people would consider it.
yeah. It's still people are adverse to change and can't necessarily always adapt quickly. But it's just like, okay, so yes, a lot of people can't adapt quickly, but a lot of these tours that were going on, well, at least when they first started going, where they're like, I'm still gonna tour through this pandemic, there was enough in place to where they had to like at least take into account like, how am I gonna tour through a pandemic? What requirements do I have to meet? So it's like there was planning. So it wasn't even about adapting quickly. It's like you had to plan how you were gonna tour through a pandemic. And you should
Um,
have kept up that practice. Like,
Exactly. Because and this is what I'm curious for when TV shows start filming again, because TV shows I think notoriously had like the best precautions. Like I think they were still doing rapid testing all the time. People who were not actors had to be masked the whole time. And even thinking back to the Beyonce concert, like she had a bunch of crew that, were on stage helping and stuff, and they didn't have on like any aesthetically pleasing, masks or anything. So that was also interesting to see because I was like, wait, like at least was the crew like no. So it's one of those things where I wouldn't be surprised when filming starts back up and like the crews and actors completely ditched their protocol. So yeah.
I said Tom Cruise. LOL. I have not kept up on Tom Cruise. That man is, ever since he jumped on that couch, I have not paid attention.
Mhm. And yeah, I think one of the things too, and I don't know. I don't know what the future really looks like because I think there are so many parallels between masking, what's it called, liberation in general, whether it's Palestine or in the United States, because again, you have to build a habit, you have to build new habits, and you also have to um, start. I don't want to say I'm tired of the word community, but collective. I think is the other I'll use. Like collectives, where people are sharing helpful information and keeping us accountable to the new habits that we have to form. That's something that's hard to come by. And even myself, like I feel like realistically, I've probably been giving myself like a 2-year break from trying to form any collective actions or anything. Like when I got out of my last job, because I've been kind of burnt out from it, but I've just been feeling more pressure of like, okay, girl, you have to, people want you to help facilitate collective spaces of shared ideology and practices. and I keep running from it. So I'm like, maybe I have to do it, but I don't want people to let me down. Like again, I'm sensitive.
Like that's very real. Like I've told my friend that I often don't ask people for help because I don't want to be disappointed. like like it's uh
And even someone in the chat said you have the platform. I can't utilize my platform like that because again, if I'm going to do collective action, it is going to be in a vetted, private, encrypted place. I think we have to take serious that there are going to be people who infiltrate our collective actions, especially as abolitionists and socialists who want to spy on our information and derail our efforts like in the community. They're going to I don't want nobody in no space being like, "Oh no, we can't do that or that's unrealistic." You are an op and you need to be removed. Like we have to take that serious. There are going to be people who make we might think if we don't vet them correctly will be in our spaces as bad actors, and we need to take it serious if we are being dead ass serious about changing how we interact in this system. So I think that's why I will not be really using this platform like, hey, everybody from my channel, join this group chat. No, we need to vet you. I need to know you. We need to know each other because yeah, you don't know who has like other incentives or whatever.
yeah, that's like I know my friend was trying to give me opportunity about like doing stuff that's like kind of facilitating a local artist scene like around music. And like the more I thought about just like and that's not at all like that's more so with like supporting indie artists, but like and yes, to some degree there's like similar ideologies and stuff like there, but it's like just the mechanics and me thinking about like exposing myself to that, like, it terrified me. Like, it was just not having the security and proper support and resources to, like, do that in a way that's gonna protect not just myself, but people that I care about. Like, that's scary. Like, so it's like, I don't think, like, when people, and I think what we've seen a few times is people who think they can use their platform like that, but they don't do it responsibly, and then it just becomes a mess. Like, and that's a nice way of putting it. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. I think yeah, what you said is basically what it is. And I also think too there's a part of me who I want people to vie for my engagement. Like I want people to be like I want like a group to come up to me like, "Hey, we've been organizing. We feel like you would be a really good addition. Like here's why we would like you to be a part of it." Because like my trust is broken. Like my trust is broken. And I'm like, if people feel that I'm important to be in their space, then come ask me. I show me that you all are a safe space for me. So that's what I feel like is important because if people don't come to me with that, I would be the one coming to another person with that. And I'm like, there's no way that like I have not been approached to be in a safe space. Why do I have to create the safe space to then approach other people to vie for their trust? So that's kind of where I'm also at as well. Um, and I think too, yeah, like, and that's why I feel like if I am going to do what I'm talking about, it's going to already be with people who I have some familiarity with, like giving that chance to like family and friends that I've known. Like, do you want to do this with me before I do that with like other strangers? Because I think it's important to at least try. And I have not tried like that with like family members and like childhood friends, I would say. So I would give people the chance. Those are the only people left that I feel like I can really give the chance and then see if they let me down or show up for me because you never know, they might actually show up and be really passionate about it.
I said, trust is so hard, and I agree. I feel like it's like one of the bigger obstacles. Um,
Yeah. And that's the thing too. People are finicky. I think communicating is hard because I had this training like I think like 2 years ago from Bold. They're called Bold Organizing specifically, and they had a conflict training. I think it was like for a week. Um and I learned a lot. There was different types of conflict people. Like there are people who are conflict avoidant, or there are different types of conflict people, but everybody's a little bit of all of them. I'll say that. So conflict avoidant, people that are heading like ready to like get into conflict. Can't remember the name for it. What was the third from? Conflict avoidant, people who approach it, and I think there was probably like passive people who are like passive about conflict, or maybe even passive aggressive.
hmm.
So those were interesting to learn because I would say I'm someone who is ready to tackle the conflict, but I can also be conflict avoidant as well because I'm like going back to what we were talking about earlier. I become conflict avoidant when I feel like it's way too much. Like if it's a lot of pent up stuff, I'm like I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, it's like almost like for lack of a better like phrasing, it's almost like if the conflict has a bit of this flavor, then I'll be like, okay, this is something I can handle. But if it's like something that like, let's say it reopens an old wound that I did not deal with from before, I'm gonna be like, that's gonna have to stay on the back burner for a little for a second. Like I'm just like I'm not prepared to deal with that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think another part of like also kind of like changing the ways I consume social media, it has also made me less ready to deal with conflict because I don't know about it. And I think that has been my thing with social media and like even with mutuals is that once you make these mutuals, they start to tell you about stuff that now you feel like you want to fix or do conflict resolution around. And I don't want to know about it at all. So like even now, like I have no idea who's made a bad statement in regards to Palestinian resistance because I haven't been reading it. When it comes, I don't even really think there is a mutual that I've read on their statements about Palestine to even critique it. I can't say any, and that has given me so much peace. I don't know who said something wrong. I don't know who said something I agree with. I'm just, I'm not engaging in it because that has provided me with so much stress over the last few years of like this pent up energy on things that I haven't liked that mutuals have done. And that was a part of my last video was me ridding myself of like that pent up frustration. Because there are literally like 5 or 6 mutuals that had made me feel so sick to my stomach over things that they have done or said. And that was my way of getting it out and not engaging anymore with that kind of stuff. So I'm not so so that is not affecting like my videos and how I speak. Like I feel like I couldn't be authentic,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
That's like that's a real bit. It's like learning to just like because it goes back to what you said earlier. It's like if we aren't mutually putting in the work to like turn this mutual following and association into something deeper, like a genuine friendship, which I do believe can happen with people in online spaces. Like I
Mhm.
genuinely believe you can find that. But if the work isn't being put in, then it's just like a matter of like, you're not going to hold me from saying what needs to be said. And it's like, and I like you, like we really cannot like, yeah, that's so real. Like, because there have been a few people that I used to follow that made me feel that way, where I was just like, I feel like I like if I share this, it's gonna like come back in a way. What maybe that was like literally me being kind of conflict avoidant. Now that I'm thinking about it, like it's like, well, if I say this, it's gonna come back in a way where I'm gonna be forced to have this interaction with someone who I feel like hasn't earned it because we are not there.
Yeah. Mhm. And I think too, even I like with my TikTok, I just have a random burner TikTok. And even when I comment on there, like I had commented on someone's post because they were posting as usual, like business as usual type of content, multiple videos, like not just one, but multiple. So I commented on their post, like, just to let you know, your recent posts look weird after seeing people bawling their eyes out on what's going on. Um, and then they commented back like, "Oh, like I have a strict social media policy with my job, so I can't post, but I'm doing the activism in real life." Still, bare minimum, a good response because what are you doing in real life? Like we don't know. So you're still up in the air. Like that makes sense. I don't want to force people to do anything that can, jeopardize whatever they got going through because this is like a long-term thing. But still, like stop posting. Like or say something being like, "Hey, I need a post for let people know something because it looks ridiculous." And the only reason why I expected it from this person is because they've said other really important things on like intersectionality and stuff. If you were posting about video games 24/7, I probably wouldn't have said anything on that person's post. But even as saying this for my burner account, they don't know who I am, whatever. I still like my heart was racing a little bit. And I was just like, why is this so like anxiety producing?
It's yeah. I'm still like, because I mentioned at the beginning, I haven't said anything because I don't want like those, especially with the previous videos, like there's like two different things like picking up in trend. One, because I mentioned the IDF in another video, like an analysis video, where I
Mhm,
was just like, oh, these aesthetics give me like romanticized IDF. And it was something for Troy Sivan, who like, because I posted that video, I found out afterwards that he's like associated with like Zionist journalists and stuff like that. And people like gave me all the tea. And I was like, well, like my little third eye was like winking at that shit.
mhm,
um, um, but I want to essentially. I'm I'm not saying this in a way where I feel like it needs to make sense with the content that I post because I post content that is musical, but I fully acknowledge that a lot of time music is political.
mhm,
Um, and especially the themes explored in music is never not going to be political. So I want to do something that like kind of gives folks a closer like I want to do something that's like historic of music from the region of Palestine, but
mhm,
also giving support to Palestinian artists and familiarizing people with like this is a part of the globe that like it should be more you should know more than just the headlines right now and understand that people like these are people like
mhm.
people like and so I want to do something that's like along those lines where I'm just like, and then I'll just like change the landing page to provide sources for people to actually plug in. Um, but I've been like petrified by a lot of the anti-Semitism claim like really like stops me dead in my tracks because I'm like damn like because it was used so like frivolously on that Drake video where I'm just like, oh damn, like I need to sit here and like script a video. I can't just go off the dome.
Yeah. But that just shows like how effective like people in power have been for a while over a lot of us. And in order to protect each other from that, it's not, it has to be, you have to be protected collectively. Because again, like for example, if I was in a space where I know most people are Zionists and I had to speak up about something to where they'd gaslight me, being having me just there by myself, of course, is going to be more difficult than if I have other people in that space with me at that moment, or I know is on standby to be affirming. And, so I think that's another thing that, like, even in what I'm doing and in my life, like, I can't keep doing a lot of the stuff that I'm doing alone. Like, that's one of my things. Like, I might feel like I can weather a lot of, if I was to get any backlash by myself, but at the end of the day, you need like other people to help you out with, a lot of this stuff. So I think that's my biggest takeaway from a lot of this is like, especially even these social media platforms we have, like it's you're isolated in how you have to build them up. So when you get backlash, you're getting it all by yourself.
Yeah. And that's like I used to like when I was younger, I used to like be a little in my feelings how I would see like how like some content creators will go up for like their peers and whatnot. So if they notice so and so is getting dragged, they'll be like they'll step in and say something to kind of mitigate that. And I just like I've never had that because I've been like pretty like openly dragged, especially on Twitter. That's why like I just like had no qualms with letting that go.
Hmm.
And I just remember, like, coming to that realization that I didn't have people willing to do that for me.
Hmm.
So I was just like, it really is, like, it's super isolating in that respect where I was just like, okay, like, in instances where I'm just, like, unprovoked,
Hmm.
like, the subject of, like, viral featureism discussions, and people are like, where they put up pictures of like, "Hey, look at these black people," and then they pick apart everything on your face and saying this, that, and the third, and it's just like having to get notifications over that, and then like well-known peers who talk about this very often, not bothering to like step in and help. Like that was very like eye widening for me, where I'm just like, okay, yeah, like I kind of just have to be about this on my own in
Yeah.
some instances.
Yeah, and I think that's why even with saying that I feel like some of us need to be approached with, hey, this is a community and we want you in it because this is a safe space. Because it's like a lot of us have rightfully been through stuff where it's like someone needs to see this and say like, hey, like I care about you, I want you in this space, we will protect you, kind of thing, if you are really like, serious about making people feel valuable in the communities they're trying to be in. And I also think too that's something that is also hard too with social media, is actually like also letting people know like, hey, I'm about to post something kind of risky, like let there be a plan around this. Because even when we think about like civil rights organizing, like it wasn't Rosa Parks like, oh hey, like I'm just gonna sit on this bus today and then the girls better fall in line. Like no, like this was planned. This was planned. So when she got the backlash, people fell in line because they practiced and it was everything was ready to go. Similar with what's going on now where there's a bunch of young people and this is not shade to them at all. But they're like, "Oh, we're going to boycott McDonald's, Starbucks. Like, let's do this together." And they're just shouting that on social media in a public space. And I'm like, I'll boycott, but this is not organizing. Like I'll do it, but this is not organizing and this is not how you coordinate like a boycott of McDonald's and Starbucks. Cuz
Yeah.
you will say this and I can go outside right now, walk down to my nearest Starbucks and see cars in the thing. And then you'll feel discouraged. You'll be whatever. And it's like this was not properly planned. You don't just shout on TikTok and people fall in line with something like boycotting McDonald's and Starbucks.
Yeah,
And
but a
then
lot
companies retaliate against those employees, you have not set up anything for those people.
that's
For
exact I was about to say it's like, the funds for the employees. I have run into a similar situation where, like, at this workplace, they were like it's a lot of younger people, and they were like, "Oh, like, we should protest or we wanna do a union." And I was just like, y'all are kicking this concept around, like, have you ever spoken to an employment lawyer? Do you know where to go and, like, connect to find resources on how to actually unionize? Because you're saying this about a corporation that has a lot of money and a lot of resources to really put you out on your ass. Like it's not fun and games. Like this is something that requires a lot of discipline on your own part, but also like really holding each other down. Like and you can't just be like, we'll unionize and boycott. And it's just like, okay, like tell me you got like rich parents and don't need this job without telling me.
exactly.
Like,
Like there was a part in here. Let me read this in Freedom is a Constant Struggle. Angela Davis said, when the Occupy Wall Street movement emerged in 2021, it was a really exciting moment. And she said, had we previously done the organizing that would have allowed us to take advantage of that moment, we could have really used that opportunity to build, organize formations, whether we're talking about party formations or not, and we would have had a much stronger anti-capitalist movement today. And the reason why we are grasping for straws right now to do boycotts is because when 2020 happened, there was no organizing and collective activism to get us to a place where we can do that. Again, we don't have secret. Even if you wanted to do an effective boycott, telling everybody how and when you're going to do it like that on TikTok is just going to allow the opposition to see exactly what you're going to do and when you're going to do to combat it. That's the reason why I had to like demonetize my HelloFresh video because all they did was put a bunch of HelloFresh ads on it. While you're saying, hey, we're going to boycott McDonald's and Starbucks from now to the end of the year, what they're going to do? Ramp up their advertisements. Starbucks might put out a influencer incentive on where they'll pay influencers $3,000 for a post, and the girls are going to take that money while you were talking about boycotting. So these are the things that they can do to derail what you're doing. So I'm not mad at them. I'm like, you have to learn. You trial and error. You have to do this to know what to do further down the line. But it's like the fact that we are still in this, I guess, naivete of boycotts is not good.
You just reminded me of something because, like, yeah, so the T is like the effort is often not localized and it's just framed in a way that like people think it's working because it's on social media, but you know, that's only so tangible. And it reminded me of like something that's like I've always kind of think about is like there was this whole phase on TikTok where a lot of like specifically Black Americans were I forgot what the name of the particular language was, but it was like speaking in a way that was like in code, but they were putting the whole playbook on TikTok. And I was just y'all, this is actually a really useful tool. And y'all just like, once I saw a white person do it, I was just like, and there you go. Like the ship has sailed. And they're like, oh, like, and people kept saying, like, I'm not gonna teach you how to do it though, because I blah blah blah. But like all the resources are like once you put this out there and there's like 50,000 other people posting or sharing a similar video, it only takes like people can be really nifty with Google and just find out exactly what you were looking at and now
Mhm.
suddenly have the exact same information. I was like, gatekeep some things, keep
Yeah.
things local. Like I like
And
uh
that's why I'm like for me, I'm thinking about ways to seriously divest, but I as much as I want to explain what I want to do here, I can't. Like, yes, there are people in the chat that are, can signal that they are down for the cause or whatever. You never know who's watching. You never know who will watch later. And you need to when you are sharing things and that's another thing too, where I'm like, even with my channel or other people's channels, these channels like this allowing to be up signals that we have not yet said something that they seriously believe will be a threat.
yeah.
So it's similar to when people are getting their Instagrams and TikToks taken down, that is things are being posted to where they really feel like it's a threat. So they will suspend it temporarily, but people vie for those things back because they haven't created a network of people where if that gets taken down, things could still happen privately. Um, so I think, yeah, there's a lot of nuance in it of like, okay, what can we use to amplify publicly versus what are we going to do privately? And some of us just won't be in the same private spaces, we won't be, but we just got to know that hopefully those other private spaces are falling in line. We'll create the network of community. this person is the liaison between this secret group and that secret group.
And it's like there are ways to do that. It's like literally why I'm kind of a fan of double speak and use it often in my videos, because it's like the people that understand what I'm saying are going to understand what I'm saying.
Hmm.
And I don't need to do any more or any less. Like,
Yeah, I find it funny all the time. I get comments from at least people who in their profile picture indicate to be a white man, and they're like, "Well, when is this girl ever going to talk about socialism?" I'm like, "Sweetheart, it's not for you. Don't get it. It's fine. Don't come back." We will never get to it. We'll never. I don't know when I'll get to it.
Sorry. Wow. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. Give me 1 second.
Robin C says, "I'll volunteer to be a liaison." That's exactly what someone who I would be skeptical of would say. So that's another thing too. Maybe some of the people most like excited um to be the liaison or be in the group are the ones you have to look out for. I'm looking for the people that are like, "Girl, what group are you talking about? I never want to be in no group." Okay, that was the secret password. The secret password is what group? I would never want to be in a group with you. You've unlocked the group. So yeah, we have a lot of work to do, obviously. And that's why even too when it became I don't so we're at an hour and 36 minutes, so I think we might wrap up soon. But that's another thing too when people would have to join the live. I'm like, just turn on your camera a little bit so I can see you privately. No one else will see you because I just need to know you're a real person. Um, and for those who are OGs in the chat, y'all know we had somebody literally in the chat that would come on every single live that as soon as they were clocked or even speculated for not being who they said they were, they immediately left and never came back. So people will hang around here for a while posing as who they are acting to be.
That's so scary. Like, and also, it's like y'all got a lot of time on your hands.
Yeah.
Like,
I couldn't commit. To being a fake person on the internet all day. Yeah, okay. Yes, we're glad you're okay.
yeah, sorry. That cough is gonna, gosh,
Yes.
she's gonna be with me for the rest of my days.
Pervasive. And that's I think about how like things like that are gonna be like shared signals of something from the past. The recovering from COVID cough.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that like, because my cough was never that like, it's just I hate coughing in public now. Even like, yes, I'm clearly gonna be masked up,
Yeah.
but like the second people hear that cough in the grocery store, I could feel people like,
Yeah.
like, ugh.
Yeah. So we've gotten to our like 1.5 hour because last time was 3 hours.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I was gonna say when I watched us back after you posted it, I had to watch it on double speed because I forget that I talk really slow. I'm so sorry to folks in the chat that want me to talk quicker. I will trip. I will sound like Cardi B, just like heavy tongue. I'm sorry.
This is what it's for us to be long-winded. Especially, I still have to figure out because I like when people are getting out all their thoughts and feelings, but other people sometimes don't. So like when we invite people, I'm like, get it off your chest. But I understand some people are like, oh, wrap it up. And oh, okay, so that's another thing too. Someone had mentioned something in the chat that I don't know if I talked about it before, but that's another reason why too I can't do too much like organizing with people on social media because some people I don't like I don't know how to say it. Okay. As recently, okay, with my experiences on social media, like responding to people, especially in like Instagram DMs and stuff, I would do it and then I would realize I bit off way more I can chew. Like there will be people that, they'll send me a message, I respond back to them, and now they hitting me up every day, all the time. Like, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do about this. So I have been trying to like I give people the benefit of the doubt. Like I never assume people will be like that, you know? And sometimes I think too it could be a mental health kind of thing that I'm not aware of, to where sometimes people are that like just messaging you and it's like I can't keep up with this. So I never know who that person is going to be. There are people that I've responded back to on social media and we both have good boundaries. We write each other every now and then. But there are some people that I think could be cool and now they're just hitting me up all the time and I'm like I don't know what to do. Like I should say like hey, like can you stop? But then I don't want to be mean because like it's like I don't want them to stop. Like you don't have to never write me again, but maybe it is never write me again. So it's I don't know how to juggle that. So I just don't really be responding to people that much anymore. Um so I'll say that so that's been my experience and why I'm a little weary too about people who don't have a platform of their own. People who have platforms of their own, I haven't experienced that. But people who don't have platforms of their own, like I don't know why certain people think that it's appropriate when you don't even have you are writing me from a burner account. Why am I going to talk to someone from a burner account like every single day?
Because it feels one-sided. Yeah, it really
Yeah, I
does.
can't
The
do that.
only the only folks that I have like followed back on social media were the ones that were like really were not playing when they signed up for my Patreon, because I fully said I was like, hey, I want to have like conversations with y'all about the music. And the three people that actually had conversations with me, giving me like a thesis statement on the music that I'm reviewing, I valued that so much where I'm like, I know that you're a real person on the other side of this. I don't mind following you back.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. So it's stuff like that where it's like, of course, I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. You might be saying, like, yes, I want a community, but now you're trying to figure out how to juggle relationships with people who you don't even know what they look like on, social media. It's like, okay, wait. So getting to be more specific and also of course I could also be better at communicating because I vividly remember moments where I'm like, all right, this person's starting to give me the ick, but I didn't say anything. And
that's
I'm
one
like,
thing.
I should
Oh,
have said
sorry.
something. Yeah.
One thing I try and be more cognizant of is like, because I find myself like, if someone's like messaging me every day, I'm more likely to respond if it's a communication style that like gels with me. Like, even if it's like, wow, you're messaging me a lot, but if like how you're communicating, uh, like gels with like how I communicate, like I'm more likely to respond. And find myself in like having to check that because I'm like, not everybody communicates the same way. And it's like, and there's probably something here that they're also saying with all of these
Yeah.
messages. Yeah.
And I also think too, like with even even I know how I'm being perceived in this conversation. I'm being perceived in this conversation as like a social, fun person, kind person. Not all the time. If you're not interested in seeing my annoyed side, my attitude, don't I'm not interested in you having hold that against me. Like yes, I'm on here. Even if me and you were on here for 8 hours, that's still like 8 hours out of like how many hours there are in a year.
Yeah.
Like people who I've grown up with, I have this cousin. She's technically my cousin. But she's seen so many different sides of me. That like she knows who I am. So that's someone who like won't hold anything against me. So then when there are certain people on social media who want to message me every day, when I want to be like, "Hey, leave me alone," or like, "Why would you ask me this?" Like I feel like they're going to hold that against my character and be like, "Oh, I was being fake." And it's like, "No, I'm being a full person and you are pissing me off and it's weird and you're asking me for opinions that I don't need to be answering."
Yeah,
But then if I say that, oh, now, oh, it's an attitude. Well, yeah, but it was warranted, or something like. So that be bothering me. Now I'm dwelling about it because I'm like, maybe I shouldn't act like that. No, I needed to because that's me being full human or something. So yeah, that's why I'm like, you bit off more than you could chew because you thought I was just gonna some people, and I think that's the thing. People think they're being like kind and ready to be your friend, but you're also actually being inconsiderate of thinking that I'm just gonna be Google for you too. Like,
yeah. Oh, that's I don't even want to get started on that because that shit makes me so mad. That shit makes me so mad. And like occasionally I will like snap at people and then like I'll get the folks that have been around for a while and they're like, oh, y'all should have known better than to try Henny like this. And it's just like, yeah. Like maybe I'll make a playlist of all the other times that I had to tell someone about themselves. Like,
I think I want to say during the course of this live, I feel no, I don't know if it was the course of this live. It was something on YouTube before. Yes, no. Someone had commented on a community post. Before this, I was reading the comments. Someone commented, I hope you make a video on this. And I deleted that comment and hid them from my channel. Don't tell me what to do. Like, I'm sorry, that's my big thing in real life and online. Don't tell me what to do. Because my reaction might be irrational, but that's me. That's my one thing. Don't tell me what to do.
that's so real though. Cause like
I don't know. It just bothers me. That's the only thing that really still bothers me. I can't really think of anything else. They just.
that's my I'm like, Sheena will be like, oh, that's like that gives like professor. She said it to me a couple times because I like expressed frustration about how I will do like an analysis video and then the comments will be people asking for other shit. And I'm like, this is the space for people that want to have this conversation. Don't come up in here like what do you mean you watched 10 minutes of me giving an analysis of this video and you're like, but what about the completely erroneous art? I'm like, don't do that.
Exactly. Because because you didn't even sit with the information. You didn't sit with it. Like some girl, like I had to keep deleting this girl's comment because she literally commented on something something that I know she didn't fully digest, and you're gonna immediately comment with a question, and then you're gonna say I have an attitude when I lash out on you. You don't know how you just disrespected me. And this is I do not want to quote this neo-Nazi Kanye West, but when he went off on Sway, like I felt it because I knew where that came from. Don't be telling me what to do. You didn't think about it. You didn't think about it. You don't got the answers.
Oh, let me take a deep breath. Oh, that
Oh my
was funny.
god.
That was way too real. I felt that in the bone marrow. That was like, like yeah.
And that's how I'm like, some people don't get it, and I understand because you're gonna end up looking like the bad person. But it is what it is. If anything, I'm gonna hang on to is that.
They're saying Gemini. Wait, are you a Gemini?
Yes.
Did I ask you already if you had Scorpio placements?
No, but I don't think I do. I have a lot of Virgo placements. A lot. Gemini is only in my chart once, so I'm barely a Gemini.
See, like I'm creating distance between me and this narrative.
Someone said this combo feels hella validating, even though I have no social media presence. The only reason why I feel distant from being a Gemini is because Geminis are known for being really social, and I'm not necessarily a social butterfly. So I guess that's where I feel a disconnect of like some of the Gemini explanations. I'm like, I don't really feel like that.
I feel like Gemini is like in my mind, I think of Gemini and I think like people who like to I don't want to say like not talk a lot, but it's like research and like and I think of like verbal or I guess oral tradition and I think Gemini. And I say that just because like my Venus is like 1 degree in Gemini
Mhm.
And I think I mentioned this before, but like my tabs situation, I'm so grateful for Google Chrome for giving me the groups because I got like 80 tabs on here, but now I can group them into what I'm researching.
Mhm.
And that's my Gemini placement going crazy. It's like literally all over the place. Whatever catches my attention, I'm gonna sit here for an hour and a half and I'm gonna research it.
Yeah. I definitely identify that because even people say Geminis are like witty. I identify with that. But I do like I had a friend that was a Gemini, and our birthdays were a few days apart. I'm a June Gemini. Um, and it's painful being a June Gemini. Like I'm literally the first week, and like Trump and Kanye's birthdays are literally like all within that week. I'm like, I'm not in good company.
You could be the week prior and be Azealia Banks.
Well,
She's May 31st. Like
damn, this is bad. Honestly, I mean, it's my you know what? And this is why, if anything, again, if I ever have to do a analysis on someone like Azealia, that's the connection. Because I like to always do videos like if I have we're both from the Bronx or we're both from. I like to have those connections, and unfortunately, the Gemini, even Princess Nokia, my Gemini sister, it's a lot. It keeps
I don't even
happening.
who's my oh no, I think I am like birthday twins with Lizzo, but our charts are flipped. So she's Leo rising and I'm Aquarius.
Mm, okay.
And oh, Naomi Campbell's also May 31st. And so's Normani too.
No, mine
That's
is
why
a
she be
Gemini.
lying about that music.
Wait, no, mine is a Gemini.
Yeah. Yeah.
She be lying about that. No, when you posted that, oh, she's really hungry. I was thinking about that today when Wild Side came
I'm telling you, I will get on SoulSeek and I'm like, what remix of this song can I find this week to keep myself entertained? Because I
on.
do love that girl's like I love her tone. Like
Mhm.
her singing tone is really beautiful to me. That's why I love her music.
Yeah.
But I know I'm not gonna get music until like 2025.
And the times keep getting worse because, like, when you think about it, like when people have had to drop music within the last 3 years, it's always like it's never really a good time to drop music. There's something always happening. God forbid she had a release date around this period of time. Like, girl, you got to push it back. So,
That's why like I know people were thinking that who else just like it was Megan. Megan is now fully independent.
mhm,
And I was like, "Oh, good for her." And then like when I saw like I was nervous cuz I was just seeing screen grabs that people had posted and it was on Instagram and I was like, "I hope that she's not teasing music cuz I like this is like I don't want to be shady, but like news is going to overshadow whatever you're trying to do independently.
mhm,
Cuz like if you don't have label money pushing you and now you actually have label money against you because I'm pretty sure they're sour about her not being at that label anymore.
mhm.
um you dropping music right now, but I think it was just like teasers of the aesthetic or whatever that she's going for. So I was like happy that she's independent, but grateful that she didn't drop anything right now because I wouldn't have had time to listen to it because I've been catching up on everything else. I was like, I'm not like there's a backlog of reviews that I have to get done because everything is nuts, and
Yeah,
I'm not.
that's true.
Yeah,
Because even what you were saying about wanting to cover like the different dynamics of like Palestinian music, like that's a whole vault of research and is debatably more important than whatever Megan has to do, or even Megan aside, whatever other like United States Black artists that rap, like rap is born out of the Bronx, hip hop, oppression, and y'all have not been rapping about oppression, none of y'all,
yeah.
like barely. We if we want to say y'all have been rapping about oppression, we got to do gymnastics to connect it to oppression.
That's why okay, that's literally why I when I did I don't think I posted the full like trauma zine thing. It's on Patreon. So
Mhm,
I fully did like a track by track on Patreon, but I didn't post it to YouTube. But what I shared to YouTube was her like the track where it was anxiety
mhm,
because I was connecting just the yodeling to how enslaved people would send codes that way in the South. So yodeling became a Black American tradition.
Mhm.
And that was something that shocked me because I was like, hold on, you and Mike Jones, both from Texas, both using yodeling samples. Like, I want to know what the deeper connection is here.
Mhm.
And on Mike Jones' track, like he wasn't singing about oppression, but it was him like the come up. So I guess like him escaping the means that he grew up in and then announcing himself to the world, which is what yodeling is used for, as like a way to like leave your signature and like everyone like so the whole thing with yodeling is like because we all have different vocal cords, it sounds different from everyone, and you develop a signature sound. And that's how
Mhm.
people would announce themselves over like mountainscapes back when humans were herding and like, uh, moving with the animals from place to place. And
Mhm.
that's how you would like find community. So I just found that like that whole connection and how that eventually found its way in like antebellum South was like nuts to me. So like that's why I analyzed anxiety on that front because she was talking about something real on that track as opposed to like, the typical like braggadocio, like not to say that Megan isn't talented or that like her music doesn't bump, but like when you got like a 20 track thing and like 19 of those tracks are like the same topic,
Yeah.
and it's really not like it's a topic that's not that deep. It's just like I don't think it takes much to like it's like spitting game. It's
Yeah.
like you're talking shit, but it's like it's not deep.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's why I'm also like, especially given our music artists right now, they have to liberate themselves from the music industry because I understand they because what you said, they're gonna be like, well, that's what the label said. What the label said. Okay, well, free yourself, like because you can't because you are realizing that you are not able to actually create art that is in line with the integrity of the art. How long are you going to be doing this for?
and that's okay. So that's a thing that like folks are obsessed with this very bloated model of a global superstar, this hyper capitalist. This is why they have the obsession with the next Beyonce. There is not going to that's never happening again. We are in an age where like thankfully, thank God that's never happening again. And I'm not talking about Beyonce as a talent. I'm talking about the impact, the environmental implications of these world tours and the
Mhm.
political implications of like where you get to tour and how like all of that like it doesn't need to happen again. I like the idea of artists stepping out of these tired dinosaur ass labels, being independent and fostering an actual genuine relationship with their like artistic self
Mhm.
and giving something that's like authentic, genuine, grounded. You don't need to be selling out these mega structures, stadiums across the globe when
Going
that's
into debt, like, for your deal.
yeah,
Money you make, put that right back into your music, period.
like and so, like, I like when artists like I don't know if Victoria Monet is still independent, but I know she's spoken on the struggles, but also the triumphs and the gratitude that she feels to be independent, owning her masters. Tinashe is another one. Hopefully, Megan the Stallion can be another one. But then, like, there's also this trend here where you notice is like I don't want it to be like the same type of art, like the same looking type of artist gets to be successfully independent, which is
Mhm.
why I don't like people downplaying the success of an independent artist. Like reframe what your idea of success is. Cause like it can't be this bloated hyper capitalist like thing. That's not sustainable. Like it's just not. On so many fronts, it's not sustainable. Like
Yeah. I think that, yeah, that's, like, everything you said is really important because these artists, they keep especially young artists, they keep looking up to that, and
yeah,
it's like, there's a whole other way you can look at your artistry. Um, I don't know, like, maybe let me just say this. I was thinking about, young baby Tate. I hope I'm saying her name right. It's young baby
yeah.
Tate. She's someone I see on TikTok, like, trying to promote her music, but I'm sorry, she kind of pissed me off because I think when the whole colorism conversation came up, I think she was in defense of like colorism. And I was like, girl, this is not going to help you in trying to develop and connect with an audience that is going to have your back. Oh, it's just baby tape. Okay. So Yeah, I was like, I see her trying to like, make sure she promotes her own music on TikTok, especially when I think and this is kind of bad for her. I think yesterday, I think I seen her promoting a song. It was a recent video. I'm like, girl, this is not the time to promote a song. Um, so I'm like, yeah, she was someone who I was like, girl, I don't know if she's independent. I feel like she might be, but
She took the side of like Cash Doll. I just remember her like she had like two videos on that colorism conversation. Was
Mhm.
this around the time that like it was it was folks talking about Ice Spice and Flo Milli?
I think it was I think it was a little before that. I think it was honestly around the time of people questioning Mariah the Scientist.
Oh. Oh my gosh, that ridiculous Twitter.
Yeah, and she was on TikTok. I didn't watch her full video because I was like, I don't want to watch it and be disappointed because I'm just tired of also these celebrities just not being able to like actually get constructive criticisms from their comments. So it's like, what's the point of even leaving the comment if they're just gonna not understand it?
That's me with Wilson Cruz. I'll never forget that. He said, "We're doing reverse colorism now." I was like, "If you don't shut your Puerto Rican ass." Like, it made me so mad. I was like, I stopped watching Star Trek after that. I was like, and we're done. Like,
Yeah,
and that was
yeah.
before I found out that dude was on some alpha male stuff. He was doing the alpha male pose.
Mhm.
One of the male leads from that show. I was like, no. Like, was Brittany Renner from it? I don't even know who Brittany Renner is. Do I know who Brittany Renner is?
I think you might know her by face. She's been like a popular Instagram model for a while. She blew up because she had wrote a book that was similar to Corinne Steffens on like men that she's dated in the industry. And she had this kind of like feminist air about her, but it kind of turned. She was very much one of those people like, oh, like not trying to be stigmatized by the men she dated. But now she's turned into like, oh, women are what they allow. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. So,
Ooh,
yeah.
that's a they say reverse. Oh, Hiriana, hi. Oh my gosh, wow, I didn't realize you were in here. Yeah, it was I had a fateful interaction with Wilson Cruz on Twitter. Um and it got actually caught like the person that I was dating at the time knew him very well. And it caused like an interesting conversation when that came back to bite me in the butt. But I checked him on his like him using reverse colorism as a defense when I was critiquing Star Trek Discovery was the show that he was on. I had made a thread on Twitter, and he searches his own name, and he thought he caught a stray, and I was like, "This wasn't even about you. I'm talking about how the show was written and like Star Trek tries to play
Mhm.
at being like
Mhm.
existing in this post-racial society where humans have all banded together and now we're exploring the cosmos, but it's still very imperialist in that stance. And it like the show critiques racism through aliens, but like doesn't bother acknowledging the history of like racism here on Earth. So I found it very interesting the way they chose to write black people in the show.
Mhm.
And I was just like, disappointed with the representation that we were getting. So I mentioned him in the thing, and he was like, "We're doing reverse racism now." I was like, "There's no way you're gonna look me in the face and tell me your character is written as a black man. Stop playing with me. Like you've never played a black man on television, to my knowledge.
Mhm.
Like you've been like anyway. It was a whole thing." But it was ridiculous, and he didn't take it well because I wasn't going to be like hold his hand through it. And then the conversation got back to the person that I was dating, and it caused a very interesting like
Mhm.
discussion. But yeah, so that's my one-sided beef with Wilson Cruz, or maybe his one-sided beef with me. I don't know.
Yeah. I think
Like,
another thing with Twitter is like you don't really have control, like can't delete stuff that involve you. So that's always been my fear there.
yeah. What do you think of this portrayal of who on Star Trek Discovery? Was she? Let me see if if you're talking about who I think you're talking about, because I think they might have been in the thread. But anyway, sorry. Let's we can I pulled this into such a crazy tangent. I'm so sorry.
No, it adds another layer because I'm like, I've never seen Star Trek before. Um, and we're at pretty good timing for the people to play this back. Yes, for those who are still here, anytime we do these lives, they'll stay up. Um, so that's why these are here for to start keeping these lives public. Because in the past, of course, I would take these down, but everything we discussed is like in a comfortable wheelhouse where it's like being comfortable with keeping it up.
So the person that asked about Uhura, that was Strange New Worlds, and I have not watched that latest series from Star Trek. So I've only caught up. Like I made it to season like 4, I think, of Star Trek Discovery, and I stopped there. Have not watched a single spinoff. So apologies. Is Twitter called X now? Nobody's saying that. Like, sorry to
I
Elon.
won't even put Twitter on my phone now because an X is like the app logo. I'm like, I solely use Twitter on my computer from time to time. I don't even follow anyone on it. I think maybe I only follow the People CDC, and that's about it. That's another limitation for me. I'm trying to think. That's what I was supposed to do last time when we were ending. I was gonna show like some COVID safety stuff, but I already did that in my last video, so I don't think I have to do that here.
What does everyone think about the lingering presence of COINTELPRO having influence? Oh, that went so quick; it just jumped. Influence in
Let
mainstream.
me bring it to the screen.
So, influence in mainstream music and television. Do you mind expanding on that a tiny bit if you got the time?
I learned about COINTELPRO on a Netflix documentary actually recently because I still had no idea what that was. And Cambridge Analytica, I was so confused on what those were. And I learned about it, but I still don't know all of it off the top of my head. But wasn't it just like intentional like propaganda to like sway a large amount of people, basically?
Oh, I'm gonna have to. That might be. Hang on, let me bring up another tab right now so I don't forget about that because that's gonna be another research tab. Hip hop and the FBI history of. Oh damn. Okay.
Is much bigger than we thought.
Yeah. They're already name dropping Chance the Rapper in the first paragraph of this article, so I'm gonna have to read that in a bit. It's the afros for me. What's crazy is that like if I didn't have to work 0.2 seconds before being, I was like trying to do something cute. I wanted to like I had a zigzag part last night because I was ready to just like do some braids to frame the face and give something cute for y'all because I wanted to do my makeup too. And I just that I got off work and I was like, I don't have the creative energy.
So yeah, you got off so soon. I
But
thought you probably would have gotten off earlier.
I will be cute for y'all next time. Actually, cuter. I'm not going to downplay myself like that.
Exactly. No in your presence.
What's the title of the article that I'm looking at? So the one that immediately popped up was on Esquire and it's called Hip Hop and the FBI, a little known history. And the person who wrote it was, why don't y'all got the byline right up at the top? Why am I having to scroll like 3 years for this? Oh, it just says Esquire. They don't have the person's name. That's weird. Is that allowed?
Maybe that's another. No, never mind.
That's interesting. But yeah, it's on Esquire Mag.
The nasal spray that I just got like I didn't do too much research on the nasal spray. I think there are like 3 different brands of nasal sprays that help with airborne viruses. So mine, I didn't even pick mine trying to be that deep. Like I just picked a cheap one. I think I can't even I can't remember the name. I'll go get it.
So are you a fan of like nasal sprays? I've never used one. I'm like kind of scared of putting something up my nose like that. Even doing the COVID tests, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like literally in hell as I put that thing. Like, what does it say? Like at least like up to here in your nose. Like,
Yeah, I honestly think I went like 2 years without getting a COVID test. Like I just would not do anything to get myself like at risk because I was scared of that that test. I waited until they just started swabbing you and not stabbing you in the nose. But yeah, this is the packaging looks kind of cheap too. Like it doesn't even look.
your camera actually focuses when you put something up to it. Dang,
Like,
mine was all blurry.
it's spelled like Covexel nasal spray helps block airborne viruses. Basically, I'm like decent with nasal sprays because I have allergies, so I was taking more nasal sprays earlier this year, but then I stopped. But the thing with nasal sprays is you have to use it. You have to put your head down a little bit, not like that, but you put your head down a little bit and then you put it like this. You don't put it straight up. You put it to the side and then spray. Put it to the side and then spray. This one you have to do twice in each nostril, and it's supposed to help for 6 hours of protection. I only use it in like extreme circumstances, like if I'm getting on a flight, a concert, but I don't use it every day. I think I used it today when I went to the nail salon, but I didn't really even have to. But yeah, and then you put on your mask and stuff. Because that's the thing with a mask. One, you shouldn't be wearing like cloth masks unless you're desperate, but get like a good mask, and it's about the seal as well. That's what I don't really have a mask with like a really tight seal that I wear every day. Like my flow mask, that's a really tight seal, but I don't wear that every day. But that's the thing. So I think these nose sprays help if you don't have a mask with a really tight seal.
Maybe I should look into that then, because I don't know how much like I've been keeping it close shaven,
Hmm.
but I don't know how much like the beard interrupts
Oh
like
yeah.
what would potentially be like a passable or safe like a safe seal for the masks that I am wearing.
Hmm. That's a good
My
point.
masks don't
And
be sealed enough.
what someone said?
Yeah, as I said, I feel like my masks don't be sealed enough. That's what I've noticed. Like the sizing on a lot of these masks, I have like tiny ears, and I
Yeah.
have to get something that like it like stays on my face. Because some of the other ones they have, I'm like, was this for a person with like their ears were like I don't know, like closer or something? I don't know. It was just like it's like sagging off my face, and I'm like, this is useless. Like,
And that's the thing. That's one thing I liked about TikTok too, is that depending on who you find, there are people who literally review masks for you. So like there are people that are like, oh, this is a new mask. Here's how it fits. Here's the people it might be good for. So there are like different like good masks that you could consider based on your face, but you have to see people reviewing them. So you're not just buying up a bunch of masks that you don't need. But someone said, is it any nasal spray? No, it's a nasal spray that said what I said on the packaging. So it has to say that it's for airborne viruses. So if you like Google nasal spray for airborne viruses, you might find this and some other brands. Then if you have a TikTok, or you can just Google it and be like, you could Google the brand with TikTok and just watch a TikTok review from your browser. You don't have to have the TikTok app to see what people are reviewing of that nasal spray or of that mask. So that's another way you can get around like finding more helpful videos without, being confused on where to find them.
I like to double mask, cloth one, and another one you can pinch at the nose. What like whenever I'm masked up in public, I also have to wear it's like part of the reason why I'm always wearing headphones. This shit helps me keep my glasses on my face. My ears don't have enough real estate to get the
Mm,
mask and my glass. Like if I
yeah.
put the mask on and I put my glasses on, they just like literally fall off my face.
Mm-hmm.
So I
They
have to like, put
slip.
the headphones on to like keep everything together.
Mhm. Yeah, and there were some people that also worry about mask acne. For some reason, I didn't deal with that. So like I'm curious to like what the skincare routine is for someone who has mask acne. Because like no shade, like I'm just saying like maybe you need like maybe you're not doing anything and maybe there'll be products that are good for you.
And I'm curious about how much of that might be like maybe it's not skincare and it could be like bacteria from like because you're breathing in and like bacteria just like sticks around on your face. Like maybe like I don't know, before I even leave the house and I know I'm putting the mask on, like yes, brushing teeth after every meal if you're that type of person, but also I just like I Listerine it up. Like because I'm not trying to
Yeah. It could be that. Someone said, oh wait, no. Oh, the ears part. Yeah. So that's another thing where if I wear a mask for too long, like I did get like dry patches by my ears and my ears would really hurt. But that's another thing, like getting one of those bands that connects it so it doesn't connect to your ears. I think I've recently bought a mask from actually Walgreens because I had like went to Walgreens and I forgot my mask at home, so I just bought one from the back, and it came with like a strap to connect behind my head, and that's really good. But I was, they don't those aren't really that accessible. I remember I was in the airport once and my mask was like killing my ears. I was like trying to see if anybody had anything. Also, you can make one out of a safety clip. Like if you take a safety clip and open it up, I wish I had some. And then it creates like these two little hooks, and then you can just put the hooks on either side of your mask if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
The ear is on. Yeah, because the two strap sounds way more comfortable. Because like when you said you got the dry patches, like
Yeah.
I was freaked out when I was in public and realized that behind my ear was bleeding because
Mhm.
yeah, and I was like, now I was like, I'm masked up, but like, what good is this now that I have an open wound like in public? Like I was so freaked out. But yeah, the thing cut behind my ear.
Yeah, like like the ears cannot take all of it. And I don't really like the masks that you have to put like the straps over your head. I like my ears. So that's why I prefer something that can hook it behind
Yeah.
my head. That's better. And it just is gonna come down to either making your own hook or buying one of those hooks, so that your ears are not under distress. Oh, and then I think some people like for me with my mask, it depends. Like if I'm wearing the K95, KN95, I let them air out. Like if I first wear a mask and I only have it on for like a couple of hours, I let them air out. If I'm in a situation where it's like I was in the airport, I was on the plane for like 8 hours, like I'm not wearing that mask again. So it depends. And I haven't gotten any
This
acne.
is this is the one from today's like work shift. I kind of use that as the litmus test. If it's like
Oh
this
yeah.
one,
Like your
yeah,
sweat from your face and your nose making it brown. Yeah.
yeah, like that's the litmus test for me. I'm like, if I look at that and it's a particular shade of brown, I'm like, new one. I can't like it doesn't need to be used again. Use a satin mask under my K95 so it don't irritate my skin. That's a great idea. Because like what I find is that the mask, like especially
Mhm.
like I have really coarse hair on my face growing in every different direction, and the masks will catch it.
Mhm.
And all day it's just like rubbing, and then I'll come home, or if I'm on my break and I'm eating, I'll take the mask off and I'll just like it's just raw because the hair has been like pulled and it like
Mhm.
snags into the mask and just yanks every which way all day.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, putting like a satin mask under. And two, I don't want to say that masks I don't want to say that masks are necessarily an investment, but you do have to be intentional about it. Like if you're going to be wearing masks all the time, and say your masks are running low, it's going to be a good time to make sure you order some new ones. Make sure you have money aside to order a new mask. Even with a satin mask, you might have like you might buy like 5 so that you could rotate throughout, wash them so so it's stuff like that where you got to be intentional about it. I bought a huge pack of masks. I think maybe earlier this year, and I'm still in the weeds of those packs. Like I got masks just everywhere that I'm trying to like get together. So you'd be good once you spend like I think I spent maybe $50. I want to say on a pack of like 100. I don't know. It was so long ago, but yeah, I would say maybe on masks you might spend $100 a year on masks if I could just be egregious about it.
Yeah, I had a bunch when I wasn't working regularly. I like clearly I wasn't burning through them as much, but now that I'm like logging like 40 plus hours at this place,
Hmm.
is like I'm looking at the pack that's downstairs. I'm like, it really might have to be a monthly budget type of situation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it could get pricey.
But
And
it's something that I'm comfortable like it's like I'm not lamenting it per se, but it's like it's one of those things where I'm like now like this is the new normal. It's like included in my monthly thing is like
Mhm.
yeah, new pack of masks.
And that's another thing too, the surgical masks. The surgical masks, they were good at the beginning because we all needed a mask, but those were never like cloth masks and only wearing a cloth mask and only wearing a surgical mask. Those are not the best. Like you need the like K95s or like what is it, N97 or whatever. Those are or N95. Those are like the best. And then you just need it to be sealed well. Um
Yeah,
but
the thin blue ones are ridiculous. They have those at work and they're like, "Oh, you can wear it." Like, no. Like, y'all can keep that. That's really laughable that you have that in the stock.
like it be open right here, barely see like girl, this is not protecting me.
It's built like a weird accordion for like a cartoon character. I was like, "What? Who? No."
Exactly. So yeah, that's not the best. And even I think when surgeons wear those, they have something else like over under them. So yeah, and I think for me too, I love wearing sunglasses with mine. So I don't really even be and I always do that. Like, so when I'm going into a store and I like have my mask on and I usually take it off. So I'm not too in disguise. Like, I don't want to be like, now somebody's following me around the store because I got on a mask and a sunglasses. So I typically like take off my sunglasses when I know I have my mask on in like a store. But if it was up to me, sometimes I'd be in the nail salon, mask and sunglasses, girl. You don't need to know who I am.
Me and Sheena, it was like last week. I forgot we had just finished doing something. It was like maybe the day before after we went to go see Victoria, but we walked into the Rite Aid because she wanted ice cream. So we were just going in there to get some ice cream.
Mhm.
And I kid you not, like I had to message my sister because I was like, Denise, like you wouldn't believe the people in this area are nuts. Like when I tell you they are anti-vax,
Mhm.
anti-mask, like it's nuts. Like 0.2 seconds into the store, I was maybe getting my second foot in, and this old white man hopped in front of us
Mhm.
and like blocked our entry to the store and was like, "Are you like?" He was doing this weird, like, just like he was doing this, and he said, "Are y'all gonna rob the store in those masks?" And I just like, I so desperately, I told Sheena, I was like, I have
Like
to
a
message
gun?
him. Yeah, he was doing like this, and I was like, what kind of old timey weird cartoon villain shit is this? And I was telling Sheena, I was like, I had to block the urge from pulling like a Shrek and Fiona and putting my full mitt at that man's face and shoving him away from me.
Oh my
And I just
goodness.
resolved to like, that's not funny. And then he tried to like back up his joke, and he's like, "Well, I wasn't trying to be funny. Y'all are," and he would like kept going on. And then like Sheena was just like, take that up with the guy, take that up with Jesus, take it to the altar or something like that. And he was pressed. It
Oh
was
my goodness.
and he was like trying to defend his weird little joke, and I was just like, that was crazy. Like he must have clocked us from before we even got into the store, because when I tell you I was on my second step, the doors
Like
had just opened and we walked in and this man was like
he
slid
was
in.
alert.
And he was old too. Like this man clearly, like he had to have been at least in his like late 70s, early
Oh my
80s.
god.
So he moved. He closed the distance between the cashier who just rang him up and the door opening to get to us and make that joke. I was like, mm, I'm not gonna be in the news for fighting an old man today.
And that's the thing. I'm like, when you're like looking like you're in, like people really see that as being in disguise. Like the way they were probably tolerating it, like they probably hated 2020. Like I cannot tell who's in here to steal. Like,
And it would have been what, like, I would have felt maybe a tad bit differently if it was someone who like worked at the store,
mhm.
but this was just a patron. I was like, what the hell? Who are you?
A vigilante. Isn't that the oh my god. Oh, I hate those people.
And they're everywhere down here. It's like they're everywhere.
Mhm.
Like Sheena always tells me, is like, just call me whenever, like, because like I'll leave the house and someone will do something, try me just
Mhm.
for like being masked up. It's like they're losing their minds. They're all like like COVID denial. Like it's rampant. It's yeah.
Yeah. And I try to the only people that I try to have sympathy for are the ones that are genuinely like I can't even say genuinely because most people are misinformed even if they're like passionate about being misinformed or the disinformation they receive. So I can't even be like, "Oh, there are some people who could dodge it." I think that's the power of the like anti-mask and anti-vax propaganda is that people don't know. Like they think like they don't even know that it's working on them.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, someone said even on public transport. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, the girls are fighting for their lives to be unmasked on New York City public transportation. If that is your version of freedom and your right, I would never in my even to this day, like if I was to go back to New York, I don't care if I have to go $1,000 in debt on Ubers. I'm not getting on that subway. There's just I can't do it anymore. And I always used to think my mom was weird because she went through like a traumatic experience with the subway. So like she had a hard time like taking the train. But me, I have like a culmination of like traumatic experiences on New York City transportation. So I'm just really adverse to it. And to think that if I needed to get on the train, I'm gonna be unmasked in Gotham, like New York City transportation, like is it like beyond a petri dish? Like if New York City as a whole is a petri dish, the subway, no. So I'm
Yeah.
like, if that's what y'all want. Like even when I see people posting videos, there's this woman on TikTok where she will do a deep clean of her like her hotel room before she stays in it. And she's like, this is what makes me comfortable. I'm like, girl, I need to see footage of you in the airport. Because if you are unmasked in the airport, but you scrub down your hotel room, you've lost me completely. Like that's exactly what the propaganda has done.
Oh man. Ooh.
Yeah.
Sorry, like my diaphragm is like shuddering right now. Ooh. Hang on, give me 1 second.
Of course, I had to clock it because I'm like, I wonder if this lady, if she's scrubbing everything down, is she wearing a mask to and from her location? I highly doubt it. And that's the thing. I'm like, every time I see videos of people unmasked in the airport, I heard that in the airplane, in your airplane, the air is supposed to be like decent in the airplane. Um, for the most part. Like, of course, if you're sitting next to someone coughing, it doesn't matter the air filtration in the plane. But the airport, where there is everybody of all types of walks of life, and you want to fight for your life to be unmasked in the airport, I mean, go ahead. That's why I really I don't like, especially when the girlies want to act like elite and above. I'm like, you can't act elite and above. That's the only thing I'll give Naomi Campbell, because Naomi Campbell, she'll act elite above, like she can't touch peasants, but she was in a hazmat suit on the plane. The politics, it was consistent. She said, I don't touch peasants and I'm not gonna be having peasants during a pandemic touch my skin. and their breath. I said, Naomi, you got it. But other people, they want to ask, girl, you cannot have a Louis Vuitton bag. You can't have Van Cleef necklace in the airport, but you are fine with inhaling whatever our us poors who got our luggage from Five Below, Burlington, but you want to breathe my air so bad. Okay.
Not breathe my air so
Like, wealthy people should be the main ones around poor people masked up if they care so much.
I know they got the what is it the rich people do with the freaking air tanks? Like you can come and breathe like 100% oxygen, blah, 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 blah. Like, have you seen that?
Yeah, I heard of it.
That like, oh my gosh, I have only seen like an advert that was like last year on Instagram. And I was like, this is a thing? Like,
Yes.
taking out my mask to eat. Will my food stop the air? Oh wait, is this
No, I think she's being sarcastic.
okay? It's just like wait. I was like, I can't tell. Like, is this a moment of education?
Sarcastic. But wait, let's look. We're gonna get carried away. We are 30 minutes before we did the exact same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the next time that we could go live is not tomorrow, next week. Next week before October is over, right? I think next week is the last week of October.
Yeah, that's the last Wednesday.
Yeah, and then the next 2 times will be in November. So yeah, this has been fun. Next time we'll put people on the screen, but this time it was just too much. The conversation was, we already had a lot to chew on.
Not stay. We'll see you next week.
No, I told you that's how I ended up on here for 8 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. They'd be like, stay. That's why the only reason why you are here is why I'm trying to formally end it, because if not, I would have just clicked end stream. This sentence done. Like, unless or you could write me a code in the private chat, like abruptly end right now. I'll do it.
Ready to pretend I lost connection. I'm gonna just freeze like.
Oh, it looks like Henny lost connection. All right, bye everyone.
But it's all in love.
Yes.
All right.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night. Bye.